I just saw The Crow remake, and I am happy to report it's a fun bad movie. Makes you want to wiggle your finger. Because most super stinkers we've been getting in recent memory have been boringly trash or unwatchably abominable. It's so refreshing to be able to stew in my swamp ass in a nice cinema and experience a film that knows how to finally tap dance on the line between dog shit and holy shit, I'm actually having fun. Now, it's not a great movie by any means, so if you're going into that expecting it to be, you're going to be disappointed. But it's also not a good movie, so if you're going in there expecting a good movie, you're also going to be disappointed. It's so bad it's good, baby, and those are some of my favorites. Now, I want to be clear, I don't think the movie's awful or anything either. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people saying it's, one of the worst movies of the year or something like that. It's not. It's really not. There are things to like about this film. I was pleasantly surprised at how not unwatchably horrible it was. I went into this with the lowest possible expectations, and I was pleasantly surprised that I was having a good time with it. Even though it's probably not the great time it wanted me to have, because again, I'm someone who likes fun bad films, and I would definitely classify this as fun bad. But even aside from that, I do think there are a lot of things in this movie that people will just straight up enjoy, not even like ironically or as a so bad it's good thing. And I'll go ahead and get those compliments out of the way before diving into what makes it not a great film, and then getting into why I had actually a good time seeing it. So what I think this movie does really well is its action. Now, there is some CGI blood here and there, which you've just come to expect from most movies these days, so I wasn't like terribly let down with that. I was caught off guard by how competent the action was, especially its final fight sequence. It's set to like a full opera performance where the Crow is going around murdering tons of dudes in over-the-top fashion while getting peppered with bullets, blood and guts flying all over the place. He even has a sword with him the whole time, so he's just like stabbing people with a sword, and he's getting really creative with it. So he has godly powers, so he's not dying, and someone stabs him with the sword, leaves it there, and he feels all the pain, so he's like, ooh, ouch, ew, big boo-boo here. And he was punching a guy who's on the ground, so now he has the sword in his stomach, and what he decides to do is just slowly lower himself down onto the dude's head. So he's taking the sword that's in his chest, and he's just bringing the dude's head closer to it as he gets lower, and it just stabs him straight through the eye. And then another cool one he does is he puts the sword in someone's mouth and shoves it back, so just splitting their mouth, or splitting their head from the mouth down, and then like the jaw and everything just hangs. It's so silly in the best way. And it's all set and sometimes even synced to the opera music. I thought it was great, like actually great. Nothing bad about that except for like some CGI blood, which again, I've come to expect it from blockbusters, so I wasn't, taken out of the experience by it or anything. I really enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed the couple of other action sequences they sprinkled throughout the movie. Really, anytime there was action, it was good. Big problem, there's not a lot of it. The times where they do have action isn't until like over an hour into the movie, really. You go through an hour having to eat your vegetables with a terribly written drama that sounds like it's something straight out of CW, and then you finally get your dessert with the great action sequences when he becomes the Crow. Now, there is a little bit more I want to talk about there. I'm going to get into spoilers here. I have to get into spoilers here talking about this movie, because as you can tell, I enjoyed it. I understand it's not a good movie by any means, but it's a movie where I was very pleasantly surprised that it wasn't unwatchable, because the trailers and everything made it look truly atrocious. Like, everyone was talking about how the new Crow looks like Jared Leto's the Joker. And they're right. He does. But the way they lean into that in the second half of the movie, I was just sold. I was like, you know what? That's great. They're just unironically committing to this super stupid, like basically graffiti on a public restroom door level of tattoos for the Crow here, and just running with it. So then he puts on tattoo ink on his eyeballs and connects it to his lips, and just they whole hog sin that. And it's hard to even find it cringe at that point. They wore that on their sleeve. And I actually like the style. The style I kind of came to appreciate. At first I was like, ooh, this is kind of lame and dorky. But by the end, when he's over there just murdering people while looking like he was in My Chemical Romance 15 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm in. But that's really all of the good things I can say about the movie. There are also little bits and pieces of a good performance from Bill Skarsgård here as Eric. Now, I'm going to do my best not to compare this to the original because it was never going to stand up to the original. It never even stood a fucking chance. I'm just going to be talking about it on its own two legs here with its own merit. But Bill Skarsgård performance, like, there are times where he did a great job, but some of the material he had to work with was just pretty weak. I think he was great in all of the action moments, though. I really liked his portrayal of the Crow fucking obliterating dudes. It was wonderful. But now let's talk about everything wrong with the film, and hooey. I hope you're ready for a doozy. I wrote a couple notes. So first off, the pacing in this film is awful, and it really feels like a lot of this movie was cut, because there's like some characters that are like propped up to be somewhat important, forgotten about, and then brought back like we're supposed to care or even know who they are. So it feels like there's a lot of things in this film that just didn't connect, and whatever they filmed to connect it was just taken out during editing for some reason, or they lost the footage. Maybe the file got corrupted. I have no fucking clue. But the pacing is terrible, and their attempt to make you care about the characters and their relationship just really falls flat. Even though I do think there was like some good chemistry between Eric and Shelley, the writing, like the dialogue between them, is just not very good. I wrote down a couple of their lines. So, first off, the narrative, I'm sure you all know what The Crow is about. Eric falls in love with a girl. They're madly in love. They then get killed in a terrible way. Eric is then given the opportunity to come back with some godly power to right the wrongs. That's the speed run of the narrative there. The main bad guy is a music buff who loves the piano, and he made a deal with the devil a long time ago, and the contract stipulates that he has to sacrifice innocent lives to send them to hell, and he gets to be immortal, basically. And the way that he kills people is by whispering in their ear, and then they kill themselves. So he basically just talks some shit. He gets into their ear and starts, you know, like the way they portray it is like the very cliche, like devil speak. But honestly, like when he just leans in and whispers and it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, I kept picturing Courage from Courage the Cowardly Dog going, and then like immediately they just they kill themselves or something. So like his power is stupid. But I don't mind the supernatural element of giving the main bad guy some power too, because the Crow has power, so it could be like a fun clash. Spoiler alert, it wasn't when they actually fought. We'll get to that later. But anyway, the beginning of the movie is spent fleshing out Shelley. She's on the run from that evil bad guy. Turns out her mom sold her to him for fame, fundamentally, and he was doing terrible shit. She eventually managed to escape, but now some things have changed, and the bad guy's trying to catch her and her friends, and he's already killed one of her friends. It eventually leads to her landing at rehab, where she locks eyes with Eric. And immediately after just like a quick glance, they fall in love. Because the next scene, Eric, who they've already established is like this outcast loner, like he doesn't really speak, he's super reserved, he's not all there, he's kind of fucked up. And the next scene, after they lock eyes there, he's eating at a table. She walks over, says hi. He says nothing. He just completely just fucking like a statue of stone. Doesn't respond. She eventually cracks through that hard exterior, gets through that shell. And one of the first things he says to her is that he likes her tattoo. And the tattoo said, "Laugh now, cry later." And she made a remark about how that's kind of how her life is played out. And he says in response, verbatim, I wrote it down because I didn't want to miss this one, because you might want to use this on Tinder or something. It's a great line. He said, "My life is more like cry now, cry later." And then he like walks away shortly after. Just drops like some pure emo shit. He's like, "Yeah, I can't stop crying. Yeah, I cry all the time." And then he leaves. She then goes to his cell, and he's got a lot of art on the walls, and she was like picking up some of the art that was on the floor and noticed that there was a drawing of her naked. Keep in mind, all we've seen from this point is they shared a quick meal together, and he just says that he cries a lot. He fucking sobs all the time. And then she passes by his cell and sees that he has drawn a picture of her naked with her honkers out. And there is like a focus on the titties, it seems, in the art. And she takes it as a good thing. Like, she's super thrilled about that. Whereas I think any sane person would be like, that's creepy. That's super weird. That's very odd that you've done that. I'm going to leave now. But instead, she then goes inside and they fall in love immediately. Actually fall in love right then and there. And then right after that, they escape together from the rehab facility because some of the bad guys had found out she was there, tried to catch her, and then they both skedaddle. So yeah, that's the level of writing that they set up for the characters here. So it's hard to take that seriously. It's bad, but I found it to be fun bad because the writing is so silly. Now, after they escape, they just start having sex all the time. They just keep steaming ham, and that's supposed to showcase that they're really madly in love. Like, right after they escape, they go to a place that she knows, and then she immediately asks him, like, hey, so, like, you ever been seriously in love? Okay, neither have I, but I'm seriously in love right now. And one of the things she says, which becomes, like, a profound statement later, is, if you ever find it difficult to love me, just love me harder, or something to that effect. It was almost verbatim that. It's just so stupid. It's so dumb. They spend an agonizingly long time with this relationship that I don't think anyone's going to care about because it's just not done very well. The only way they even show that they love each other is by showing them fucking. Like, that's about it. That's the level of depth. Oh, and they go out all the time together, which is really stupid when it comes to the story in the movie, because she is on the run from the devil. She is on the run from the devil man and all of his associates that are hot on her tail. And they go out all the time. They go to clubs, they go out drinking, they have a ton of friends that go on vacations. I don't know how much time passes from the rehabilitation center to the time where they do actually catch her, but it doesn't seem like that long of a time period. It feels like it's only a couple months at most, and they're already like soulmates bonded together. But it's really stupid that the main thing they do is go out together, like clubbing and drinking, and that's eventually what gets her caught by the bad guys, because fucking obviously it would. They're basically like in witness protection here, trying to stay as under the radar as possible, and their number one hobby is going out in public as much as possible. Like, it wouldn't even be hard to find them. You just need to ask any bar in town, hey, have you seen Eric or Shelley? And they'd be like, oh yeah, they're regulars here. In fact, they're probably in the back right now. Like, I don't know why that would be the number one choice for people that are on the run from the devil, trying to hide from them. So the bad guys show up, and they kill both of them. And then that's when Eric becomes the crow. And that's when the movie finally gets somewhat interesting. But I actually liked how stupid all of that drama was, because I have an appreciation for So Bad It's Good, and it wasn't boring. And I love goth. Like, I'm a huge fan. I'm really upset that they didn't do as much with the goth atmosphere as I would have liked. I think there was a lot more potential to go even harder, even more unapologetically goth with a lot of what they were doing. But they pulled some of the punches in that regard. But they didn't pull any punches when it came to laughably bad writing. It was so fun watching these characters talk to each other and do the stupidest activities together. But even though I know it's turbo ass when it comes to like the first hour of this movie, I was just having a good time with it. Like, fucking Eric is dressing like Doflamingo. It's just so silly. But when he becomes the crow, things do improve a little bit. The action, I think, is great, but the problem is the bad writing persists, and then it stops being fun, shitty writing. So, let me explain what I mean by that. There's a couple decisions with the narrative that I think just really are nonsensically stupid. So, one of the stipulations of Eric having his power is that his love needs to be pure, and he'll be able to right the wrongs and bring her back and whatever. But the second his love even starts to waver a little bit, he loses his power. So he basically has to become the crow twice, because he starts to doubt her after seeing that the devil man made her do something bad, which is really weird and out of character for Eric here, who's infatuated with her, so much so that he is going to fucking start murdering people to bring her back from hell. And he sees that she did something while being forced to by the devil, and he's like, oh, I can't even look at her the same anymore. Actually, I kind of hate that bitch. Can't get it out of my head. I think I'm gonna quit. So then his love starts to waver and he loses the ability to heal. So he gets shot with a shotgun and he can't heal it anymore. So then he like goes back and the guy's like, your love stopped being pure. You know, the enemy of love is doubt. Have fun in heaven now. Your girl's in hell. Your fault. And he's like, wait. Another chance. He's like, okay. So he becomes the Crow twice, which I think is highly unnecessary, and it brings everything to a screeching halt. It didn't need to happen like that. That just was a totally useless thing, really. And there's a couple other instances where it just takes away its own momentum. Like, it takes the wind out of its own sails multiple times. Like, when he becomes the Crow, they're setting up great moments, some great set pieces, and then they'll do shit that nobody gives a fuck about. It makes no sense. Like, they already spent an hour building a relationship poorly. They failed to do that. But now, can you at least give us just like a good 30-40 minutes of the Crow just going on revenge killings here? Like, that's satisfying. It's the simplest formula ever. But even when they're stumbling, I'm having a good time with it. Like I said, it is a fun, bad movie. Like, by no means is it a great film, and also by no means is it some, like, unwatchably horrible film either. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people saying, like, this is just as bad as Borderlands or something like that. It's just not. It's not even close. Even if you're not a fan of fun, bad movies, there are things to like about this one. The action is good. And there are a couple other moments in the film that are good. It's just the overall package of the movie isn't that good. But man, again, I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I really did. It's like all of 2024 has so many bad films and almost none of them are enjoyably shitty. This one is. So that's always special. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit. That's really about it. See ya.